Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial's set correctly to USA Prepares. And we're delighted you're here. We broadcast 2 hours daily, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, right here on Genesis Communications Network. And if you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. John is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. Mike Parsons is with us today. Welcome, Mike.
Greetings, Vincent.
Hey, Mike. You know, you're a farmer and I am. I just wanted to mention that we are enduring the hydraulic hose blues again. And there's a tractor that we have that hasn't had hydraulics hoses replaced in our ownership of the tractor, and they're just blowing, causing all kinds of problems. And I wanted to share that with you. Have you noticed that on your farm as well?
I haven't, because both of the tractors are down right now. But before we begin, Vincent, I wanted to congratulate you. You don't realize it, but last week you've actually saved a life.
Really?
Can I tell you about it?
Sure.
I received a letter last night, and this is from a listener. And they say in their letter, first of all, I want to thank Vincent, Lauren from Ohio, and Mike for their efforts of informing the public about health benefits of colloidal silver and how it can save lives. I also want to say a special thanks to the lady that gave me the health knowledge that she was willing to share with me so graciously at 2 a.m. Now, she leaves out names of certain peoples for various reasons, but she says, please understand that I am a person currently forced to stay under the radar because of the corrupt corporation posing as government in Canada, which is currently trying to eliminate me. No, I've done nothing wrong other than sue 24 justices in the Canadian courts for denying my disabled son his rights to a trial, as well as attempting to save the life of another child. Recently, she says she had become ill to the point that she was experiencing acute internal pain along with massive hemorrhaging. And up to that point, she had been a very healthy person, was a vegetarian, and had not seen a doctor in over 10 years. But after a few days of this condition and no relief, she knew that she, had very little time, and she was seeking medical treatment. She was reluctant to go to the hospital because of being aware of the fact that she could be detected and the possibility of being nabbed right then. And once they get you, they don't take you into the hospital. They take you straight to jail. So she was in a dilemma. And she was stuck because, as she puts it, no matter which way I turned, death seemed inevitable. Then your timely call helped me to decide not to risk going to the local hospital, which, as it turns out, was a godsend and the right thing to do. She says, other friends helped me to get vitamins and minerals which I lacked due to poor nutrition from hiding for so long. At first, I experienced a burst of renewed vitality, but this didn't last long, and a day later, my health plummeted. Thankfully, before this happened, I was reminded of the recent show. I told her about the show with you and Lauren, a couple of shows, and she listened. She went back and listened to your archives. And regarding one of those, talked about the benefits of colloidal silver, and you've been talking about that in your own health situation. And she said, I decided to give it a try as an alternative to antibiotics, as I suspected I might have an infection by that point. And she writes, by the time I had made it to the health food store the next day, I was coughing, my head was pounding, and I was shaking and feeling like I was going into septic shock. Then right there in the store, I took a dose of the colloidal silver. Within minutes, I could feel my lungs, my head, and abdominal pain subsiding. Within 48 hours, my pain and hemorrhaging was almost gone. Although I needed to correct the dosage of colloidal silver I was taking in order to continue to recover along with a few changes in my diet, I am happy to report that by God's grace and a few friends that cared, I am still alive today. Thanks to the people like Vincent, Lauren from Ohio, Mike, and others, you too can survive tomorrow by preparing today. I just thought I'd share that with you.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Mike. I really appreciate that. And let me put another dot in front of us. Yesterday, I drove someone to a doctor's appointment. And I happen to know this doctor, and I've invited him to be on the air with us. And, he'd like to, but his schedule's really busy, especially during our broadcast time. And he has a specialty. He's a dermatologist, and there are very few of them. So I thought it'd be great to have him join the faculty. Well, he had his assistants with him, 2 assistants. And when they were there at the right time, I asked them if they had heard of using iodine, triiodine, on skin tangs, sometimes called skin tabs, these little pieces of skin that seem to develop. And no one had heard of that. And one of the assistants said to me, Where do you get your information? What makes you ask that? Where do you get this information? I said, well, I talk to a lot of people. And that's what we bring to the table. There are so many people like Lauren from Ohio and others who have called in, who have become instructors, who listen and share their information. And I also mentioned to another doctor during a visit taking someone else to a doctor's appointment within the last few weeks about colloidal silver. And I said, what do you think of colloidal silver? Not sure what that is. So there are plenty of medical professionals who have not been exposed to the information about colloidal silver, iodine, and some of the things that we talk about here on this broadcast. And by the way, class, just as a point of information, I am taking liquid iodine, putting it on a Q-tip, and swabbing it on my skin daily, as something that Dr. Shealy and I talked about. Not a lot, just about the size of a postage stamp. And I put it on different parts of my skin. I changed the part of my skin I put it on daily. So it might be on the left arm, right arm, forearm, shoulder, and so forth. And so Dr. Shealy and I talked about that, and that's something that can help prevent the damage from radiation, and your skin absorbs the iodine. So, Mike, it's what we've got here is a pretty large coffee table or a kitchen table, and it's just a bunch of us who have something to share, some information that we think others might benefit from. And we just pull up a seat to the table and we share that information. None of us is being paid. There are no hidden agendas. We are all volunteers in what we do. And we're all passionate about what we do. Additionally, we feel that we need to help those who are willing to listen, to share those specific points of information that we've learned, those dots that we've connected, and we share our ideas and opinions because we think that there's some benefit in that. And that's why we do what we do. And literally, those who are faculty on this broadcast literally give up their time, which they will never get back. They'll never get back. Mike, you're not going to get back the time that you're spending on the air today. And you're doing it because you think that there's a benefit to your fellow man, especially those who are willing to listen and possibly investigate further what they hear here and maybe even try some of the things that we're talking about or implement some of the strategies. And that's who we are. That is literally who we are. There are plenty of broadcasters who have hidden agendas. There are plenty of broadcasters who, when they, well, I guess maybe we should take a couple of minutes and talk about the underbelly of broadcasting. There are plenty of broadcasters who will say, get that call from that publishing company saying, we've got this wonderful author. We think that author would be great for you to have on the air. And he's written a great book. She's written a great book. What do you think? And then the broadcaster might say something like this: well, send me a case. Send me a case of books, and we'll see if we can get that person on the air. And then that person, the broadcaster, may sell those books. And that would be the compensation. And those are things you don't know about. Those are things that you don't think that that happens in broadcasting. Well, sometimes it does. It doesn't happen here. In my case, I'll get some calls from people who have written books, and they will ask me to have their person on the air, and I'll say, well, let me look up the book. I'll look it up on the internet. If I'm interested in it, if I think it's worth spending time on, I will say something like this: I'm interested. Will you please send me a copy of the book, and I will read it. And if I like it, I will invite that person to be on the air. If I don't like it, that person will not be on the air. It's as simple as that. If I would buy that book, I would put that person on the air. If I wouldn't buy that book, I absolutely would not put that person on the air. Mike Parsons is with us. Mike Parsons is a pilot. He's a farmer. And some of the things that we're going to talk about today are privacy. And you think privacy is free? Well, it used to be free. It's not free anymore. Privacy is really expensive. And we're going to talk a little bit about tracking and spying and Google hiding information with their search engine. We'll be right back. That's Mike Parsons is with us. He's a fellow farmer and a pilot. And I have a request. I mentioned this yesterday. If you listen to this broadcast and we've provided some information that changed your life somehow, maybe you decided to buy a farm, move out of the city, move out of the suburbs, change locations, move to a different location, somehow made a significant change in your life based on something that you heard here, maybe investigated a little bit further. Maybe one of your instructors piqued your interest to study some more on a specific topic, and it changed your life. Would you mind calling us today and letting us know what happened, what you did, what the result is, good, bad, or otherwise? And that number, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Mike, I have, as I travel and when I meet the police, I invite them to come on this broadcast. And I say, well, do you guys have a ticket quota? Would you like talking about police work and what happens and share some of that with us? I have never had a policeman, a cop, law enforcement, ever, active employed police come on this air. They won't do it. They will not come on the air, and I don't know why. They can tell their story. They can say, yeah, 99.9% of us are great guys, and we've got, just 0.1% who aren't so nice. The rest of us are really good guys. They could say that. I mean, of course, I would challenge them, but they've never done it, Mike. They will not come on the air. Now, it's only been, we're going on 6 years now, so we haven't spent a lot of time on it. But I'm wondering what the deal is. They just won't come on the air. Are they afraid? Are they going to get fired? Or what's the deal? Same is true with bankers. Bankers don't want to either.
It's the same reason that you'll have these policemen on various talk radio shows talking about how they're out there on the front lines fighting crime, how it's a terrible job, yet they will not walk down to City Hall and put the handcuffs on the real criminals. They will not walk down to the courthouses and go back there where these Luciferian priests administering sorcery wearing a black robe are conducting their business in a private court. They will not put those in the shackles and cart them off to the jail where they need to be. Because at the end of the day, they're just hirelings. All they are is nothing more than a hireling doing the dirty work for a bunch of evil criminals that the average person assumes is an elected official.
Mike, when you sit in the courtroom and you watch the judge and those charged with violations, do you see the criminal enterprise at work? Do you see how it could go a lot better for those who are charged and how they are getting run over by the system? Is that something you see as a person who watches what happens in court?
Yeah, once you learn the truth of what's really going on, that they're operating an administrative court, it's a private for-profit corporation posing as a court, that the judge makes a profit off of every conviction, that the DA and the clerk make a profit off of every conviction. They have a financial interest, which is totally in violation of not only the law, but their canon of ethics. They follow no canon of ethics. They do as they please. It's an administrative court utilizing admiralty law, maritime law, and the captain of the ship does as he dang well pleases. And the average person doesn't know this, and when you try to explain it to them, that it's complex. And so you tend to have people that glaze over. It's kind of like trying to give advice about medicine or finances or sexual relations to your parent. Well, they're not going to listen to you because who are you? You're a child. What do you know? So that's the problem. And there was yesterday you were talking with Captain John Regan.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a big concern, of course, about the problems going on. And after the break, I want to tell you about a comparison I observed between what the President of the United States is doing yesterday versus the Grand Chief of the Chilcotin Indian Nation. Be amazed.
Okay. All right, we'll be right back. Mike Parsons, Vin Finelli, USA Prepares. Mike, you were saying that John Regan was on the air yesterday with us, and we were talking and sparked a thought about Obama and the chief of the Chilcotin Nation. Please continue.
Yeah, I was listening to the show yesterday, and Captain John Regan was doing an analysis of just how few people would actually be able to survive off the land in the area around Dallas, Texas, where he lives.
Yeah.
And I thought of how my friends to the north were preparing for this upcoming winter, as same as their ancestors had done for over 1,000 years before them. And I considered that while the President of United States Corporation was chasing a golf ball somewhere, this was the time when the Grand Chief of the Chilcotin Nation was out fishing with the men of his town. And for several days, what they're doing is they're catching the salmon, they're cleaning and curing and smoking them, thousands of pounds of fish that they're going to store up for the winter. So they'll have enough for every man, woman, and child to make it through the winter. Along with freezers full of moose, there's going to be plenty to go around for everybody in their community. And so because they're preparing. No one will go hungry, regardless if they have an income or not. There will be more than enough. There will be an abundance, as there has been for over 1,000 years.
Because the village is involved. It's not one person
and
doing it himself or herself.
They work within the resources that the creators provided for them. So they go and do the massive harvesting of the salmon when the salmon are coming in to spawn, and they're there's just an overabundance of them. They just go out there with nets, and they literally can get 100 pounds of salmon in a single cast. With a 10-foot wide net, you'll get probably 20 or 30 salmon each time. It's really no problem. And then it's just a matter of cleaning and curing, and some of them they'll smoke and they'll preserve and they'll put up for the winter. And that's what they'll have to eat for the 6 months of the year, which is below freezing. Of course, they do hunt moose, and they store that up. And so if you're looking for leadership, you can look to the guy in Washington, D.C. that's out there in Bermuda shorts chasing around a golf ball and learn from him, or you can look to those people that have been preppers for over 1,000 years, the original preppers, the American natives. And just want to mention one thing. John Stadtmiller, I listen to him most of the time when I'm able to. And he made a point yesterday and the day before. It had to do with the way people define what a hero is. All the time people want to say that the people in the military are heroes, the police are heroes.
Oh, wow.
And I agree with him. He said, a hero is someone who saves lives, not someone who takes life. So I agree with that, and that all of the USA Prepares instructors are about preserving life, sustaining life. Those are the real heroes. In a time when everything is upside down, when right is wrong and wrong is right, as the Bible talks about, to call someone who goes out and systematically murders people in a foreign land, whether it be from Vietnam, killing innocent women and children who were just doing their daily chores, to people in Iraq who didn't ask for anybody to come over there and help them. People really have to analyze what are their definitions of these words, and have they been deceived? And I would venture to say that it's a huge deception. I listened to the flack about this guy not wanting to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, his reasons might have been different from mine, but I don't pledge allegiance because I know what those words mean. I have a creator. My allegiance would be to my creator, not to some man-made God or some symbol of a man-made God. And I just went through the Black's Law Dictionary last night, just kind of looking this over, and I realized real quick, I'm certainly glad that I don't pledge allegiance, because to pledge allegiance, well, by definition, to pledge, a formal promise or understanding, the act of providing something as security for a debt or obligation. Allegiance is defined as a citizen's obligation of fidelity and obedience to the government in return for benefits of the protection of the state. Are you being protected? Probably not. I think the founders would be rolling in their grave. And of course, a flag is a symbol or a signal. United States of America today is controlled by a corporation posing as, it's registered as United States government. It's listed on Dun & Bradstreet. And so therefore the verse, "and to the republic for which it stands," is a false statement, since a republic is defined as a system of government in which the people hold sovereign power. The United States government has declared anyone claiming to be a sovereign as a potential domestic terrorist, and under the National Defense Authorization Act, those are deemed as enemies and potential terrorists, enemies of the state, and they can be assassinated. The republic envisioned by those who signed the Declaration of Independence, well, the republic required self-governance, as all rights were inherent from birth from our Creator. Self-governance, that's the term they're afraid of, because once everybody latches on to self-governing, you don't need a government overseeing you. You don't need a daddy, and that scares the heck out of them. Then the verse, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, indicating that the individual sovereign states, which were like sovereign countries in their own right, and the people were true sovereigns, is no more. Under God it's not possible, since today the United States government's highest court has declared God has no place in their courts, schools. It's not even found in the legal dictionary. God is not listed in the legal dictionary. They don't reflect on God. Indivisible was emphasized so that no one would forget what happened the last time a state tried to secede from the so-called voluntary union. With liberty and justice for all, Vincent, as someone who has been falsely charged, railroaded into prison, it's clear that the word is, as we know, does not mean is. Well, though also, the word all apparently does not mean all. I certainly didn't see it. That's why I don't say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mike, as you mentioned this, I was thinking, let's just make a substitution in the Pledge of Allegiance, and I pledge allegiance to General Motors, even though they fully knew that they were manufacturing ignition switches that were killing people. 124 deaths have been attributed to General Motors' faulty ignition switches because they looked at the cost of a recall versus the cost of litigation. They said, well, let's see, it's probably a little less to litigate, so let's just do that. I mean, we can pledge allegiance to IBM, Google, Verizon, Apple. And as you say this, Mike, I was thinking about back to a university graduation that I attended some months ago. And as I looked around, there was a pledge. And I was the only one that I could see in the entire ceremony. I was in the bleachers, and I could see across. I could see left, right, and across, down. I was the only one who was not saying the Pledge of Allegiance, because I didn't know exactly what the Pledge of Allegiance meant at that time. Who are we pledging allegiance to? Are we pledging allegiance to this regime that is beating up small sovereign nations all over the world because they have oil or minerals or resources that we think that we could use better than they could use them? Is this a pledge to Barack Obama, who is pledging to reduce the military troops occupying foreign lands, who has actually done the exact opposite? Are we pledging to Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State, getting our people killed, selling favors? Who are we pledging allegiance to, and why? Why would we pledge to offer a guarantee by a solemn binding promise, which is similar to an oath, allegiance, which is loyalty by a villager to a government? Why would we do that when the government does these things and sells us out? When we have representatives, alleged representatives, who sell us out, why would we pledge allegiance to that? Why wouldn't we pledge allegiance to honesty and integrity, and just doing the right thing? But we don't seem to be able to do that. So, Mike, some people are probably going to turn us off and say, those guys are nuts. They don't love this country. Actually, one of the very first complaints I got when I was on the air, within a couple days of broadcasting for the very first time, a call came into the radio station in Springfield, and it was a complaint about me. And this lady who called, this woman who called, said, if he doesn't love this country, why doesn't he leave? And my response was, I do love this country, and I want them to leave, meaning the people who are committing these atrocities and crimes. And so at this graduation, university graduation that I attended, they had some young men in uniform. And I would say it was only a couple percent, maybe 2% of the entire graduating class. 2% of the class was in uniform, military uniform. And they got standing ovation after standing ovation and cheers, and these guys, and I'm thinking, are you kidding? These people have been sold out, and right next to them was their recruitment officer beaming proudly that he's put targets on their fronts, backs, and heads. And everybody was so proud of these young men. Plus, Mike Parsons is with us, and I mentioned that the instructors of USA Prepares provide at their cost, their time, their advice and counsel, and their expertise. And joining us from Montana is Kyle. Welcome, Kyle.
Good morning, Vince. I heard a quote yesterday, and I've been thinking about it half the day yesterday pretty intensely, and I think people should really think on it because, our founding fathers, you were right. I really believe that their honor and integrity and honesty was more of a foundation to them. That was the reason they created and started the country, and were willing to place their lives and their honor, like it says in the Declaration of Independence. But I heard a quote yesterday, and I was just kind of wondering what you and Mike think about it. And it goes like this, and I probably won't get it exact, but it's very close. A flag is a piece of cloth with colors on it, first used to shrink wrap the brains of its subjects, and then to cover the casket of its casualties.
Mike, you want to go first?
Yeah, that's a fact that a lot of people will make something their god, and they will give power to an inanimate object. They will bow to it, they will pray to it, they will worship it, they will bend over backwards for a piece of cloth. There are guys that will set up and take shots for little ribbons to pin on their chest. I can't remember what the guy said at one time, but effectively, the insanity of these people willing to go to their grave for these little pieces of cloth ribbon to put on their chest is just amazing.
Kyle and Mike, we have some of those pieces of ribbon here at the farmhouse, and they are Russian pieces of ribbon, American pieces of ribbon, German World War II pieces of ribbon, and then their little badges that go with them. And you're absolutely right. And I was amazed at this graduation ceremony at the university where the attendees were so proud of these young men. Maybe there were 5 or 6 of them, and they were so proud of him, and they gave an ovation to the recruiting officer who sought these young men out to make them targets to fight for old men's wars for profit. Beating up small nations around the world in the name of democracy, in the name of keeping us free. It's absolute insanity. And we have here at the farmhouse a number of flags that were used in various wars. We have the meatball, and that is the Japanese flag. It's the red-orange circle inside a field of white. Then we have the rising sun. Then we have the flags with the swastikas. And we have the American flag and the Italian flags. And we have a bunch of flags here that were used in war. And it's horrible. And these flags are a reminder to our family, the horrors of war. the killing, and yet we celebrate these young men who are going to be killers. They're being trained to be killers, whether they're going to fly drones and kill people, whether they're going to get behind mortars and howitzers and naval guns and helicopter gunships, tanks, whatever they're being trained for, that is not generally not productive for society's well-being. It's to blow stuff up. I was talking with our son in the truck yesterday, and I said, during World War II, there were drives to get copper and metal and, pots and pans that are perfectly useful. And what do? They turn them into explosives that blow up instantly. And so that perfectly good piece of cookware turns into a weapon of war. Have we lost our minds? Yeah, and yes, we did get attacked by the Japanese. Yes, and Germany did declare war on us. Yes, I understand that. But we waste resources, natural resources, on killing other people. It's absolute insanity. Kyle, if you'd like, you certainly may hold. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Mike Parsons is with us. And Mike, we've got Eric in Florida. He's been holding for a long time. Welcome, Eric.
How you doing, Vincent? Good morning, Vincent and Mike.
Good morning.
Hey, Vincent, I attended your expo. It was fantastic. I met Matt Stein and Dr. Richard Allen was in their class, and I saw your seminar on taxes, and Rich Shubin. I got his book Off the Grid. But, listening to you, Vincent, over the years, you've definitely influenced my life, and I have gotten off the grid.
Tell us about
First of all, back in February, you had called out for assistance with a website for Mike Parsons. And, Mike, I hope you don't need this now, but I did purchase freemikeparsons.org. I sent you an email February 26th at 12:56. I hope you don't need that anymore. If you do, you can get in touch with me. About a year ago, started looking for land. It took quite a while. And I wanted to find some acreage that was bordering kind of a sanctuary area. And I'm in Southwest Florida. And I was able to pick up 2.5 acres of land that bordered 77,000 acres of a preserve. The land had sold for $60,000 5 years previously, and they wanted $20,000 for it. I was able to get it for $18,000. And what I did is I cleared the land. Had to use concrete dust to make the roads a little more drivable because it rains. When it rains, sometimes it was getting muddy out there. Fortunately, it was a landscaping person that owned the land previously, and there was a lot of piles of dirt on the land, so I was able to spread all that out, and I don't really have much problems in rain anymore. I put in a spring-fed pond with an island, and when I first put that in, there were probably about 6 cool spots you could feel inside the pond, and now every 5 feet, if you walk around through the pond, you feel the cool air, it's cool water, and it's all very fresh water. As at a Home Depot, when they offered water testing, I had the water tested. And actually, they asked, is it well water or city water? And I said, it's a pond, but they still sent somebody out, and they said the water was going to be filthy and don't even bother testing it. And it tested out to be 350 parts per million for particulate, which is incredibly low. City water is like 550, and the hardness was 6. And they did some other testing and just said it's very, very clean and clear water. For the land, I ended up purchasing 3 40-foot by 9-foot 6 shipping containers. I got them from the other coast that sold for about $2,850 plus $300 delivery fee. And I ordered 3 of them, so I was able to get 3 of those delivered for $2,500 each. And those were all custom painted, refurbished. You pick your own paint color from out of about 50 or 60 colors, the outside, the inside, and they rubberized the roof. And so the way I was setting those up is I was going to put those 2 of the shipping containers parallel, 40 feet apart, have the third container up on the top, and then I bought a 34-foot by 14-foot hunting cabin that's going also up in the air on top, and then I'll have a deck out in front of the cabin, and I'll be able to expand the house back into the shipping container, and I'll also have a deck up on the shipping container 20 feet in the air. I bought some farm equipment. I purchased an old International Harvester tractor. I got a four-wheeler and a side-by-side just to work around the property, all used. I wanted to get livestock, so I did some research on dogs, and quite a bit of research, and I found out that Caucasian Shepherds, or Charkas, have been bred 600 years to protect livestock. So I drove up to, they're hard to find in the States. I drove up to Ontario, Canada, Niagara Falls, and picked up a male, and I wanted to breed them also. And then I had a female flown in from San Antonio, Texas. And they're fantastic, beautiful dogs. I wanted to give them short Russian names, so the male's name is AK and the female's name is AR. They just recently had puppies. I was trying to prevent that. She's not supposed to have, I didn't want her to have puppies till her third heat, but she had puppies, and I guess the AK didn't care. He didn't want to wait for the third heat. But I have two beautiful puppies, and actually they're for sale. If anybody wants them, they're 4 weeks old. Beautiful dogs, and actually that's part of one of my businesses. I'll be breeding those. They sell for anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 if you have papers for them. So once I got the dogs, I had to get a 6-foot tall fence all the way around the property. These dogs are the same ones they use in the Russian prisons. They're pretty big dogs. They can be big. I train mine very socially. I brought them to farmers markets to keep them on the nice side. You know, dog is what trains them on the other end of the leash. Mine are very nice, but incredible watchdogs. They hear everything. And so I had to put in a 6-foot fence all the way around the 2.5 acres. And I have a dual gate entry because I know I'd have livestock, so I'm able to drive in from the road and then shut the front gate and then drive in through the other gate and keep all the animals in. Animals I'll be getting. For the electric, I got a quote from the electric company, and to run the nearest telephone pole is at my neighbor's house about 600 feet down the street, and they wanted $6,100 to put in to run 3 poles, when it's usually $675 to bury it underground from the street if there was a pole in front of my house. And I wasn't about to pay that. So I looked into solar energy, and I found a solar energy system. Well, I got a first quote. It was like $20,000. I thought, well, that's expensive. And I was able to find somebody else on Craigslist who has pretty good deals on equipment. I ended up purchasing 2,750 watts worth of solar panels, and those are all on top of one of the shipping containers. I got a Schneider Connex 6150, a Synergy Power inverter and charger, and it's actually, funny enough, it came in an EMP-proof case. It was all cork lined. The guy that does this is electrical engineer. You know, I don't know if it worked or not, but it is cork lined. And I've got 12 AGM deep cycle lead acid batteries for the system. For a backup, at Costco, they were selling a Champion 7,000 watt running and 9,000 watt peak dual fuel generator. It runs off propane as well as gasoline. And I'll use that in case for some reason the electric solar gets low. I can recharge the system. I replaced my appliances that were in the cabin. The cabin's very nice. It's all tongue and groove wood inside. It's got a loft with 2 beds in it, full bath, dual kitchen sinks. But I did replace the fridge because it wasn't energy efficient. Nowadays, you can get very efficient refrigerators. Mine uses about 44 watts of energy. 44 watts per minute. Per hour.
Per hour?
Per hour, right. 44 watts per hour, which is good because I was looking at
Well, I'm sorry.
fridges.
It's probably 44 watts as it's running, so it would measure 44 watts.
Exactly.
Yes, right.
Yeah, so it's less than a 60-watt light bulb, and it's a full-size 20.5 cubic foot fridge. And then I've got a AC unit that's mobile that plugs in, and you can roll it around and adjust it wherever you want it. Everything runs fine off the solar.
Eric, let me ask you this: lifestyle change. So, what was your living accommodations before this?
I lived in a little city called Cape Coral, Florida, in a rented house on a canal. I've been in Southwest Florida about 20 years.
So now you're completely independent, and you can do what you want when you want.
I'm completely independent, yeah. I also am building a 40-foot by 14-foot greenhouse. I purchased an aquaponics system that comes with a fish and aged media. I'm also going to be building a bat house for mosquitoes. I took over a horse. There was a horse down the street that was purchased at a auction, and it was abused, I guess. And there were two different neighbors watching the horse, and they didn't have a lot of grass. And I told them, well, when I get my property, my fence up, you can come on down and bring the horse down. You can stay with me for a while. So he's been down there, and he hasn't left yet. He's still there. And he's let
me ask you this, Eric. To what extent did USA Prepares, the broadcast, the Get Prepared Expo that we host, what kind of impact did that have in making this decision to get you to what were we involved in helping you say, okay, I'm going to do this?
You were absolutely involved. Captain John Reagan's assessment of our economy all makes sense. You know, and listen to a variety of people about the economy, as well as being totally self-sufficient and off the grid. I had my money in the stock market, and I wanted to turn it all into tangible assets, and that's what I've been doing. Everything I'm purchasing has value, and so yeah, you've influenced me in that way.
Let me make a comment on that. So, class, what happens is when you get your statements from the bank, you look at the numbers and you go, okay, this is good. That the numbers are a little bit larger than they were last month and a little larger than they were the month before. So you can pat yourself on the back and you say, this is all working. Well, what we did was we said, I don't think this makes a lot of sense having these digits. I think we would be better off with spare parts. We'd be better off with a farm. We'd be better off with a bulldozer, a backhoe. I'm not talking about new equipment. We only buy things when they're very good values for us. And that's what we did. So it sounds like you've done a lot of the same things. And Mrs. Finelli has on her list for me to find containers. And, there are neat ways that you can arrange these containers, these 40-foot long containers. And you can make them in a U shape, you can make them parallel, and you can use them, and you can put trusses on top of them and actually build a roof on top of these containers, and you can make houses out of them, and you can have pretty darn strong safe rooms surrounding the interior of your roofed-in space. So I think what you've done is absolutely brilliant, and I applaud you because, and Mike, I'd love to hear your comments as well. Mike, Eric is using nature as his friend. He's not fighting nature. In anything that I've heard, he's using nature as an ally. What do you think, Mike?
Well, he's done everything right. He's utilized the natural resources. He first found a location that had a good source of water. So he's got that solved. And actually, if he had absolutely no electricity whatsoever down there in that climate, he could survive year-round. And being situated so that you're not dependent. The whole thing that people have to grasp is you need to get away from being dependent. If you're dependent on anybody for anything, you're at risk. And so far, this man has gotten completely out of that realm, and he is totally independent.
Eric, I'd like to thank you for your call. We've got Rick in Florida as well coming up next. Please stand by, Rick. Class Mike Parsons is with us. And Rick in Florida, thank you so much for being so patient. And what we try to do is not do little snippets and sound bites. We try to give each person a chance to fully be heard. So welcome, Rick.
Oh, you mean I'm here?
Yeah, you're here.
Wow, how you feeling there, Alex? I mean,
oh, you got the wrong guy. Alex is going to be on in about.
My brain is like out to lunch today.
Yeah, Alex will be with us in about 35 minutes. But did you want to talk to us?
Yeah. Hey, Mike. Glad to see you're breathing fresh air, man. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow, dude. I'll tell you, I wouldn't put up with that myself. But that's neither here nor there. So, Vince, how you feeling, man?
Much, much better. I'm on colloidal silver. I'm on apple cider vinegar and supplements. I take plenty of supplements, and I'm on the mend. And I've been on the tractor. I've been hauling hay. I've been pulling a trailer, a gooseneck trailer with a heavy truck. So yeah, I've been. I'm not 100%, but I'm getting closer. How can we help you, Rick?
Well, I'm going to touch on a couple of things that were said yesterday. I think it was yesterday. I don't know. I'm kind of a little behind. We got them hurricanes coming, and today is like the only day where the ducks aren't having a good time. And I don't know. I think that's going to change pretty soon because, the sky's changing rapidly around here. But, all those bug-out guys, I'd say 35 or more years ago, I was in that dramatic accident that killed me, and I'm going to try to make that real short, but it all leads into one thing. And so when I died, I'm standing in the middle of the street looking at myself, sitting in this van with this station wagon sitting on top of me. And there's like 3 angels. There's one on the side of me, on the right, one on the left. And one goes over by the van where I'm sitting in there dead. And the one on the left of me touches me on my elbow and says, "Come with me and we take this trip." We can talk about this again at another time because it's lengthy and I don't want to get away from what I'm talking about. So anyway, we took this trip. I said too fast, and before I could even say and too fast, we were on the other side. And so went up through all this darkness into this light. And there was this little humpy bridge and going over a river, and there were 2 angels on both sides of the bridge, and nobody had their feet on the ground, okay? Everybody was hovering. And then Jesus was standing on the bridge, and you could tell it was him because, he had the holes in his arms. They weren't in his wrists or his hands. They were about 2.5 inches, maybe. Like, you have a double bone in your arm, your forearm, that goes from your elbow to your wrist. Well, the nails were driven in between that double bone there. Anyway,
you're going to have to go fast. We've got about 2 minutes left.
Okay,
go
so
fast.
He talked to me for a couple of minutes, sent me off to go watch a bunch of stuff, which was from the beginning to the end, and then sent me back. Okay, so anyway, long story short, I come back, and I'm looking at all this stuff deja vu because I've already seen it. They showed it to me. Okay, and I got to start thinking about prepping and bugging out and started doing all kinds of, searching for bugging out and all that stuff. And it's like I came to a lot of realizations. For all you people that want to bug out, let me tell you something in short. If you didn't take it with you, don't expect to find it when you get there. It's not going to be there. Number 2, all you hunter-gatherers who think you're going to be out there, I'm going to bag me a buck. I'm going to go steal somebody's cow or whatever. Guess what? That cow has an owner. That owner's got an M16 or whatever, and he's not going to let you take his stuff, and you're not going to find anything that you're going to be looking for. So forget about it. If you don't have it, it's not going to be there. So smart money would be on prepping for yourself and your family. And all you guys with solar, I know you mean good, but there are better ways. Less money to be paid for all that stuff, and you don't have to utilize as much space. Hear that commercial coming up. Mike, good to hear you.
Rick, thanks so much for calling in. Mike will be back. You and I will be back in just a few minutes after bottom of the hour commercial announcements. Mike Parsons is with us. Mike, I want to share something that I saw yesterday. When I go out, I travel, normally it's to pick up parts for broken equipment here on the farm or to get something I need for the farm. And so yesterday I was picking up some parts for a trailer that had a brake failure. Brake shoes, the lining became separated from the backing shoes. So I need to get some brake shoes and some other trailer parts. And as I was leaving the establishment, this warehouse that sells the trailer parts, there are multiple businesses within this industrial complex, if you will. And there was this large paved parking lot that connected all these buildings together, plenty of parking, dark, black pavement. And these two office girls, I assume they were office workers. They were leaving during their, I guess, break to walk their puppy that they brought with them to stay at the office. And this puppy was dancing. This puppy did not want its feet to touch the pavement. And these two girls in their sandals were totally oblivious to the fact that the heat was way more than comfortable for this small Chihuahua-sized dog to stand on his paws. And the point is, I think we need to be a little more aware of our surroundings. These two women were totally oblivious to the thought that this dog might be burning his paws walking on this very, very hot pavement in bright sun. So I wanted to share that. Mike, I'm sure you've seen things like this because you're an animal lover as we are.
Yeah, Vincent, there's an analogy to what you're talking about. There are people among us whose feet are being scorched by the environment, and there are people all around them that just don't notice a thing. And I want to thank the previous two callers for their thoughts, and Eric for going to MikeParsons.org, my website, and clicking on the petition to free Mike Parsons and signing that. I want to thank them personally, and if they want to call me off air, I would like to talk to them today if possible. If they want to call the call screener back and leave their numbers, I'll get those and I'll call them after the show. Or if they want to email me, Mike at MikeParsons.org, or 4 letters, MPHI, Mike Papa Hotel Indian at MSN.com. MPHI at MSN.com. That's my direct personal email. I'd like to share some information with them and get their opinion. And the guys nailed it. All you're going to have is all you've got. That's all you can count on. And holding on to that is going to be crucial. And as AK wasn't firing blanks, neither will that farmer be firing blanks if somebody's out there trying to take his cow. So don't plan like that one policeman told you, Vincent, well, I don't have to stockpile because I've got a gun. I'll just go take. Right. When you become the predator, then you become prey for those people that are not going to stand for a predator. If you can't live in harmony with your people and politely ask, you won't survive. So you better not be a liability to your neighbors or your community.
You're right. There are known cattle rustlers in our neck of the woods. And we had some of our cows, the fence was cut, and some of our cows ended up on another farm, about a mile away, actually more than a mile away. And the guy that had them stored our cows in the back of the 40, so they would not be seen. Well, ultimately we got our cows back. And I can tell you that we have taken precautions to make sure that our cows no longer get removed from our property. People driving down our dirt road will see us armed. They will see us walking around with sidearms. They will see us at times with rifles. And they realize that cattle rustling is not a good thing to do. And I have stopped people on the dirt road and along our property, along our farm, with antennas and hunting dogs, and what they have is these collars that transmit signals. So what they do is they run the dogs so that the dogs will chase the deer, and then these hunters will set up a gauntlet, and then they'll kill the deer in a killing zone. And I object to it. And I saw one of these guys with his truck, and I've seen him. He only comes around hunting time. He's probably lives 20 miles away or more. And I stopped him along the road, and it's easy to do because it's for two cars to pass on our road, one of them has to pull over and put two wheels in the ditch. And so I stopped this guy, and I said, I asked him what he was doing. He said he was looking for his dogs. And I said, well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to paraphrase. I let him know that his dogs would survive the day. However, if they chase our cows, I will consider that a hostile threat and endangerment of our cows' lives, and I will remedy the situation post-haste. But I was going to let his dogs live today. Do you know what? That guy doesn't come back anymore. Because he was literally running his cows 1 mile through our farm. And I object to that. Who does he think he is? Letting his pack of dogs run through our farm. Without permission, without consent, without agreement. Who does he think he is? And so he hasn't been back because we had this little discussion and he knew I wasn't kidding. I didn't threaten him. I just let him know that if his dogs chase our cows and put them in danger, I would stop that immediately. So, Mike, when you talk about these things, you talk about what it's going to be like, that's just a little taste of what it's going to be like. And over the weekend, I had the pleasure of having two of our instructors come on over and visit us at the farm. And they talked about, how they're preparing and how other people will want to take advantage of our instructors' preparations. Class, it will be a bad day for those who try to take advantage of us. It really will, because we're ready. We've been teaching how to prepare, how to survive for going on 6 years. We think it's that important. You can look at the signs all around. You can even look at what Germany said. You can even look at Barack Obama's executive orders that farms will be confiscated. Fuels will be confiscated. Food will be confiscated. Energy will be confiscated. Tools, businesses, inventory. Anything the government thinks that they want can be confiscated during a time of emergency. So it's incumbent upon us to prepare for ourselves and not depend on the government. And if the government wants to use our stored items for their purposes, that's theft. That's theft. And I'm sure that, and I've read these statistics, the latest statistics, that 40-something% of American households are armed to have at least one gun. I think it's more than that. I think there are more than 300 million guns in the arms of the villagers here. And that is why the Japanese did not want to come on the mainland, because they thought that the resistance that they would find from we the villagers, who would turn into guerrilla warriors, would be overwhelming, and they would lose. So that's why they stopped with the air attack on Pearl Harbor. Mike?
Well, it all boils down to preparedness and your desire to live and survive. And like the gentleman said, if you don't have it, you're not going to get it. More than likely, it's never coming your way. There was a fellow back in the 1920s who worked for the Baltimore Evening Sun, and he wrote a little piece about liberty, and he said, "The fact is that the average man's love of liberty is 9/10 imaginary, exactly like his love of justice and truth. He is not actually happy when free. He is uncomfortable, a bit alarmed, and intolerably lonely. Liberty is not a thing for the great masses of men. It is the exclusive possession of a small and disreputable minority. Like knowledge, courage, and honor, it takes a special sort of man to understand and enjoy liberty. and he is usually an outlaw in democratic societies. So if you feel like you're an outcast, unwanted, you probably are in this minority of people that truly love liberty and freedom. I believe it's just a matter of educating our fellow man and letting them understand the benefits of being independent, self-sufficient, and self-governing as opposed to being a dependent slave, trading in that meager subsistence living for true liberty where you keep everything that you produce and you're not a burden to your neighbor and you're not dependent upon no one. The way that the people lived in the 1800s, now we can utilize the same modern technologies we have now to our advantage without all the taxes, without all the bureaucracy. We can do this if we want to. We just have to want to. It's a mindset. You can do it. We're doing it. Vincent's doing it. I'm doing it. A lot of other people are doing it. The question I would ask, and this is not something most people probably expected, but Vincent, your health was challenged recently. Had you not been able to go to the doctor, what would you have done? I want to know, now that you know the consequences, are you prepared so that you can take care of that if it happens again in the future?
Absolutely, we are.
Excellent.
We are. And I've got a little short story to tell you when we come back about villages. Mike Parsons and I will be right back. Plus, I want to thank you. I just went to TalkStreamLive.com, and a couple of minutes ago, we were number 17 out of a lot of broadcasts. All the broadcasts that are tracked on TalkStream Live simultaneously on the air. So I can't thank you enough for. I'm humbled, and I know our instructors are as well. Mike, I was in the truck yesterday, and I was talking with our son, and I was talking about some of the farms, and across from us there's a farm that's in disrepair, and the guy who owns it just doesn't seem to be interested in cutting down the thorn trees and making his farm look, a little more presentable. He doesn't use a chain harrow and spread the manure, and he's looking at the farm for the short run. He's looking at it as how can you get the maximum amount of income out of it for the short run, and he'll put up a fence and leave the old fence, and the old fence will fall in the road, and then there'll be rusty old barbed wire for half a mile down this dirt road, and it's annoying. But I've never thought of confronting him and saying, you know what? Your farm is messy, and by the way, it's devaluing our property just because of the unsightliness of your farm. I'd like to contrast that. I got a call from a gal in Virginia, and she owns a house in a suburb, and she was threatened with a complaint toward the homeowners association for not cutting her lawn in 10 days. A week and a half, she was ill, and she couldn't cut her lawn, and so the neighbor threatened to report her to the neighborhood association, where she, if she didn't cut her lawn, they would issue her with a fine, a neighborhood fine. And I said, who cares about the fine? How are they going to enforce that? But the point is, there are places where people are snitching on others, and then there are places where people want to get along in harmony. Mike? Do we still have Mike Parsons with us?
How about now? You got me now?
Yeah, that's
okay.
Good.
Sorry about that. I've been with you all along. It's just the mute button seems to be something slipping my mind. Right now in Canada, the Gestapo has such a system where people are encouraged to snitch on their neighbors, and there's a bounty of $3,000. If you turn somebody in, it's $3,000, and that's a lot of money. And people are willing to sell out their neighbors for a price. And I've been working with the Chilcotin Nation now, ongoing for getting close to a year now, trying to help them get their kids back from Canada. While I was in the lockup and before and after, and anybody out there that has the ability to loan an aircraft or donate an aircraft to a ministry that is registered that would allow you, it's not a 501c, it's a real ministry. They can take a tax deduction, whether it be a loan or a donation. That's a project I'm working on right now, and if you want to call me off here, send me an email, mphi@msn.com, mphi@msn.com, and I'm going to try to put the email on my website here in just a moment. But, yeah, the thing is that the government uses every trick in the book, and they are not the government, I apologize. This corporation posing as government will use every trick in the book to take away your liberties and force you into working against your neighbor for the betterment of mankind. And so many people have been fooled into thinking that they're on the winning team, and that's probably the biggest destruction of our society, that is this deception that people are tricked into working for a corporation and working against the betterment of their own selves.
Yeah, Mike, that corporation has recommended if you see something, give us a call. You know, we'll send the troops over. We'll send the blue plague over. We'll fix it. Yeah, never call 911, class. Never call 911. Unless it's okay for someone to be shot or someone to be taken to jail. And the daughter who says, Mommy and Daddy are fighting and calls 911, the cops come, and then both parents become felons and lose their alleged privilege to carry a weapon. Thanks so much, Mike Parsons.